Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready to rock? You are off stage with DWP. I am Gary Spivak, and with us today, very special guest. We have Randy Blythe from Lamb of God. Randy, how you doing in Richmond, Virginia today?
All right, man. Got my air conditioning fixed, so I'm not sweating like a maniac anymore.
Well, you're kind of used to some nasty sweating. It's not like you put on sit down air conditioning pop shows for a living.
No, but when I'm at home and I want to sleep, I don't like to sweat.
But that's okay. We can go in many different directions on that. I, for one, am a huge fan of being colder than warmer when I sleep.
Yeah, sleeping, yes, but overall I prefer hot to cold.
All right. So crazy August humid day or like a February snowstorm? Which one?
Crazy August humid day all day long.
All right.
All
Good to
day.
know.
I grew up in it, so.
Right on. We are off stage with DWP. This is Randy from Lamb of God. It's a very special guest, and we have a very unique thing we're going to be doing today. For those who don't know, I'm sure a lot of you do know that, Randy does have a couple hobbies, and no, we're not going surfing with him today, but he's gonna show off some of his photography. And it was very kind of, for me, the way I found out that you're into photography, which is awesome. You were on stage with us at your first Rock on the Range in Columbus, Ohio, and it was Steel Panther.
Right.
And I'm like, wait, that's Randy from Lamb of God, and he's got a camera. And I think you even had a photo pass. But there you were, just taking photos. And, there's if a rock star likes to bungee jump, or if a rock star likes to surf, if you can explain to everybody, like, what is it about photography that really like drives you and inspires you?
Well, I became a photographer by accident. I got a camera to shoot video with. I asked a documentarian friend of mine what would be a decent camera that wouldn't break the bank, that I could just shoot some video, like for a documentary idea I had. But I wound up mostly using it to shoot skateboarding footage. And I was doing a lot of videoing, mostly skateboarding footage with my friends. And one day I was in my kitchen and I saw my French press coffee maker sitting on the stove, and it had this domed chrome lid, and I saw my reflection in it looking all weird and distorted, and I was like, that's kind of cool looking. Well, maybe I'll just try and use this camera thing for what it's actually meant for. So I put it on automatic, which I call dummy mode, because everybody's a photographer until they hit manual. And then I just took a picture of this French press with my weird reflection in it, and I looked at the picture immediately, and I was like, I'm a genius, But I wasn't. It was an entirely average photo, but it's just something about it. The bug immediately struck me, and that was, God, that was like 7 or 8 years ago, I guess. And I'm rarely without a camera since. And I find photography for me, because with my music, the lyrics I do, and my prose writing, whether it be a book or an article for a magazine, I'm trying very much to get my belief or feeling about something across, and it's very subjective. You know what I mean? It's very much my view. And that's cool. That's art. But it also, if you only think about your views, you tend to get up in your head, and your ego takes over. So when I discovered photography and I went out and started shooting things, it was a way for me to be a bit more objective and pay more attention to the world around me and look for the beauty in it that it provides, because I'm not a studio guy. I guess you could call me a street photographer. I don't create situations or anything. I just go out with my eyes open most of the time, with no goal whatsoever other than just shoot photos. I never know what's gonna pop up. So I have to be open, instead of thinking about how I feel about whatever issue is going on today, And so I've caught some really cool moments that way, just being open and paying attention to the world around me, instead of thinking so much about my opinions on things, which is definitely how it works with lyrics and with my other writing,
So a festival, especially a rock festival, is kind of like candy for what you're talking about, because there's no posing. You can really capture some stuff maybe that the common eye or somebody wasn't even thinking about.
Right. Well, the thing about me in photography is, like I said, I rarely have a camera. I rarely don't have a camera with me, wherever I go. Like when I leave the house to go to the grocery store, 95% of the time I take a camera with me because I never know what I'm going to see,
Interesting.
Like one time I went to the grocery store a while back and I didn't have a camera with me. And this was a few years ago. When I came back, something had happened with a city bus. And the city bus, there was a leak or something. It caught on fire. And I stopped and I looked at it, and the bus exploded in front of my face, dude.
Holy whoa.
And I had been shooting photos with it with my iPhone because, that's all I had. But I was like, oh, my God, dude. And, like, even the iPhone photos, it was just like this bus, boom, blew up. And these firefighters were like, whoa, blown back. And it was just like, I mean, not that I'm stoked that the bus blew up or anything and that the firefighters had to deal with that, but it was a really cool picture. So I was like, God damn it, why didn't I have my regular camera? So I always have my camera with me, and I shoot my surroundings, whether I'm going surfing or going for a trip just to visit my family. You never see what you might see on the side of the road. And on tour, we're in a different city every day. If I have time, I can get away from the venue. I go out and find what's to shoot. But at a big rock show, what's there to shoot but a lot of bands? And also, most of the bands I shoot, because I know a lot of people, have been doing this 25 years, are friends of mine.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be on the side of the stage anyway, generally checking out their performance. And these people are all used to me. Like they're my friends. So there's not as much self-consciousness, I think, for when people look over on the side of the stage. And if you see someone with a camera, I know this as a performer, if you see someone with a camera, like on the side of the stage, like in Guitar World or something, you look over and you're like, who the fuck is that? Because, this is your zone, and like side stage is where you can go if, you have a technical problem or you need a drink of water or whatever. And normally it's just your friends or whatever. So if you see some strange photographer over there, you're like, what the fuck is he doing over there? But,
right. I'm sorry to interrupt. I've always felt like the stage as we produce festivals is kind of a band's living room.
Yeah.
So if you're kind of like walking into the band's living room, it feels like this invasion of space. But so if they see, if Jacoby of Papa Roach sees Randy, a Bud, or if Slayer does, they probably don't put their rock star pose on or something.
No, they don't think about it. I mean, generally sometimes I get really silly stuff.
Yeah.
I've gotten it from, dudes in Slayer, like who like everybody, they're playing like, the crowd's just like, killing each other. And there's this big moment and they look over at me and they're like,
They smile on stage. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
Carrie doesn't. The other ones. Carrie refuses to smile. And I've tried to make him smile on stage before. But like you're saying, when they look over and see me, they're like, oh, it's just Randy, and almost all my friends by now know that I'm always shooting photos. So they're just like, whatever. And they know I'll send them the photos if they're any good too, so.
Yeah. Do you find that so many people go to shows and they put up their phone, take a video or a photo and maybe never look at it, and it's just,
I don't know what happens with the I don't know if they never look at it. It is frustrating to me, I think, because I grew up going to shows in the era before cell phones.
Same. Yep.
And when I went to go see the Bad Brains, you weren't viewing the show through this filter, this digital filter, you were in the moment, present.
Right on. Yes.
And I think, and I get it that people want to take a picture And you know, that's cool or whatever because they have a camera, a little tiny camera, and I understand that. But I see people just the whole show like this with their phones out and stuff, and I'm like, you are completely missing the point of what is happening here, because this is a very, for me, a show it's a very communal thing, man, right? And it's like, yes, we are the band, and yes, they are the audience, and yes, we are on stage, and yes, they're in the venue area where the audience is. But I kind of try to think of it more as our show, not my show, because the audience, you know, any band will tell you the more energy the audience gives you, it feeds you, man. You know, it feeds you as a musician. And so the harder the audience goes, the more they're feeling it, the more I'm going to put off. And it just goes back and forth and back and forth. And it's this massive exchange of energy, and it's a form of communication, you know, that is just really super intense to feel.
Well, you're making me sad and frustrated and like,
Uh,
cause we so agree with you. And you say community, that's a big word we use. And we also we use the word tribal, you know,
yeah,
there's this tribal feeling when
yeah.
bodies are together,
Primal.
strangers. Yeah. And, you know, you guys do a really good job of bringing this tribe of this from the left side of the world and the right side of the world all together for like chaotic energy.
Yeah, it's good. It's a release, and you know, it's a leveler, and it tends to take away a lot of the divisive bullshit that you see in society today. You know, when people are at a
Yes.
show, they aren't arguing politics and, you know, doing all this other shit, or getting butt hurt. You know, it's people are together, and I think it humanizes everyone. You know,
Yeah.
um,
Look, we do shows in North Carolina, in Florida, Kentucky. Um, I am a California man. Um, I'm very happy our DWP rock festivals, which are 40,000 a day strong in many cases, are very apolitical. You
yeah.
know, you don't, like you said, you don't see that. You see that it's the place where everybody can come together. You know, I wish we had more of that right now.
Yeah.
There's too much division, right? And yet another reason why we should have our festivals. Damn it. We are off stage with DWP. We have Randy from Lamb of God. And before we get into his photographs, you know, I want a quick rundown of DWP and Lamb of God's history together. When we started our festivals, Randy, there was Coachella, there was Bonnaroo. There wasn't really rock festivals, and I don't mean, you know, metal. I don't mean punk. Just like rock and roll festivals in America. And we felt there was this lane. And yes, there was, you know, Donington, Hellfest, all the Rock and Ring, Rock and Park stuff in Europe. And we felt there was a missing lane. When we started, I'm gonna make an admission. We weren't ready for you. We weren't ready for Lamb of God. We had to prove it to ourselves. You know, I could say the same with Metallica and Slayer. And I could say the same thing with Foo Fighters and, you know, Queens of the Stone Age on the left side of it. But you guys, we finally reached a place where we felt we were ready for you, which was 2016. And it was Carolina Rebellion and also Rock on the Range. And at those two, you headlined our side stage.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, to this day, that was the most intense headlining side stage moments we've ever had. We were actually scared, like in a good scared, like a roller coaster scared, you know?
I get scared sometimes too, so it's okay, you know?
Right. But you did such a good job of, I guess, using the word control chaos is what we use. And, you know, Tim Bohr, your fine, our buddy and agent, said, all right, man, I'm going to give you this, but next time, main stage, which we'll get to in a second. But do you remember, you know, there's so many shows you do, and, you know, I actually held up, you know, my ticket stub of this particular Palladium show in Hollywood.
Right.
You know, if I ask, are you one of those guys like, oh, I remember that show, or do they all kind of wrap into one?
I remember both Rock on the Range, and I remember Carolina Rebellion. Because, you know, I have a lot of roots in North Carolina, and I remember that we got a shower room that night for my band, you know, at a nearby hotel. but it wasn't.
You're welcome.
I'm sure.
No, whatever.
It was at the Great Wolf Lodge or something like that.
Oh boy.
It's one of those kids, like those hotels that's like an amusement hotel for kids.
Sweet.
So they have like swimming pools and water slides and all this shit, and everything looks like, Abraham Lincoln lived in it because it's a log cabin. And I remember going I remember going to the hotel after that and getting a shower and thinking, man, that was a really good show. I remember Carolina Rebellion in particular was a really, really good set.
Yeah.
I think Seven Dust was there that night because I saw my buddy Clint. And
Yeah.
I remember Rock on the Range too, being backstage. My friend Rob Finn was there.
Talk about a good photographer.
Yeah.
Right? Hell yeah. Shout out to Rob.
God, that was 2016.
Yes, sir. So
4 years ago, man.
I know. And then because yes, you were just too big for that stage. And predominantly what we do on the main stage at these big festivals is, the final 3 slots, usually held for, bands with like rock radio, singing along moments, maybe a little more tame. But we went for it with you and put you in a top 3 slot, and have a photograph right now of me and you on that stage. That was incredible. It was a Saturday night. It was supposed to be Lamb of God, Prodigy, Into Disturbed, and Keith unfortunately took his life, and Jacoby and P. Roach filled in.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I know one of my friends had filled in, and they did a Prodigy cover, I believe.
But that was a real breakthrough moment for us in that festival to have you, and it obviously totally worked. It was, again, just beautiful control chaos.
You guys do a good job, not to butter your butt or anything, but I've been playing festivals in Europe a long time, and I talked to a few people in the organization, in your promotional organization, about it. I'm like, looks like you guys have been paying some attention to Europe in a way, because there's a lot to learn from those people. The really long running festivals that run smoothly. You mentioned it wasn't in America, and I was like, why can't we have this in the States?
Right. No, and to your point, 2 things on that. Number one was, yes, we've talked about this on off stage, that we have kind of lifted from the European model. We feel we're more military with our timing, and we if a band's supposed to be on at 4:15, man, you're on at 4:15. That's important to us.
That's good.
I know, right? I used to hate as a rock fan, man, when you just sat there waiting for that band. That was my second thing. Oh, the second thing is, in America, things are so kind of formatted more. And in Europe, you're able to have Lamb of God and like fucking Fall Out Boy.
Oh, yes.
Right? Or Slayer and Cypress Hill.
Right.
And we, why couldn't we do that? And that was part of the reason I jokingly said we weren't ready for you. But we've evolved. And our shows it's so important to have a Lamb of God, as it's so important to have Foo Fighters or Royal Blood on our shows too.
Yeah, man, that's one of the greatest things about those festivals is the diversity of styles of music. I've gotten to hang out and become friends with musicians from different genres on a personal and professional level, because we're all there to do the same job. But on a personal level, we're all just kicking it backstage. And, I've made some really good friends that way. And that opportunity wouldn't really exist on your standard metal package tour, as it were,
Right, totally.
I really, really love that about the festivals. And also, it's funny, I joke, man, we go over quite a bit for the summer festivals over there, and it's like, hey, man, I'm going over there to hang out with all my American friends, because a lot of my friends are already there,
Right.
It's like I see them more in Europe than I do in the States.
To prove your point, the one band, and he's a not to name drop, but he's a tennis buddy of mine, which is Gavin Rosdale Bush.
Mm-hmm.
The one band he wanted to see at Rock on the Range that year was Lamb of God. And he was on, I motored him over, and I think we caught the thank you, good night. We got the final right, but he's like, yeah, I saw them, at in Australia and love them. So
Yeah.
and you would never think that, like maybe Bush and Lamb of God will never go on tour together, but hey, it's the energy and the rock and roll excitement's still there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, like our guitar player, Mark, like we wound up somewhere in Belgium, like and playing a show with Waka Flocka Flame or whatever. And he came over to see us and was in the audience going nuts. My guitar player, Mark, has like made some beats for him and shit, I think.
Love
it's
it.
crazy,
Well, we are off stage with DWP. This is Randy from Lamb of God, and it's time at this portion of our one-on-one together. I'd love you to show off some of these photographs and talk about it if you can.
Sure, man.
Yeah. So the first one, these are all rock photography. Randy does other things, but is the band Behemoth.
Right. And yeah, I'm looking at the photo right now.
Okay. So are we.
Good.
So is everybody, I hope.
That's a backstage photo, and that was in Oregon, I believe, at a place outside Oregon. We were on tour with Behemoth and Slayer a few years ago, and that's the singer Nurgle, and he's getting ready to go out on stage at the beginning of their set, and he has these weird like fire batons. I don't know what you would call them. They're like these things that hold in his hands like brass knuckles, but they have this rod, and he caught them on fire every night. And he would go out and hold this fire up, because who doesn't love fire, and look evil and look metal and stuff, But it's kind of interesting because that shot was taken. It was still daylight at that time, and fire is not as effective during the daylight visually. But it's part of his deal. You can look at the photo and see that a lot of light is coming off the stage, and you can look at the photo. He's in his guitar world, getting ready to walk out and look down at me and show me the flame, and it's kind of like, for me, it's the calm before the storm sort of photo. I love these types of photos I get with my musician friends backstage, while they're in between songs. I love shooting musicians as they in between songs, a lot of the times coming off looking like they're going to throw up or whatever, because they're getting water. It's a very human moment. So
right, like you said, it's not a posing moment. It's not one of those from the crowd and
right. They're not
rock
pose.
Right.
He had just his tech had just lit in that torch thing, and he was holding it out, probably not trying to catch anything on fire backstage, and getting ready to walk out on stage. So I was actually on the ground. It was one of those elevated mobile stages, and I was the backstage was really tight, so I didn't even watch them from the stage that day. But I went by and happened to see him getting ready, and I had my camera, so I was like, "Ooh, that's cool," and snapped it. It's just the moment before the show.
Let's move on to the fabulous Slipknot.
Yes, speaking of European festivals,
that
is at Download.
Remember the year?
It's the last year we played it, so maybe last year. Did we play last year? It's either last year or the year before.
Okay.
And Slipknot had built this. They had this insane fucking stage set now, and there's like moving walkways and elevators and all this shit, man. It's like it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And Download is a big festival, like
yeah, we love it.
100,000 people there. Out of
never rains, right?
Yeah. It rained then. It's nothing but mud. You better bring your wellies, as they call them.
Right.
Slipknot has all this stuff on stage that looks really cool from the audience, but it makes it really difficult if you're shooting from the wings, because there's shit. So Download to put this this ramp that went down into the crowd. We had played that very same stage a couple hours earlier that day, and I went down on that ramp where this picture of Corey Taylor is. But so I didn't really get many good shots of them on stage then, because of all this stuff in the way. But there was a VIP balcony area that was situated on the side of the stage right above the audience. And I went up there and I was trying to shoot the dudes on stage, but all the crap was in the way. So I was thinking, well, let me try and shoot this a slightly different way. You know, let me just get what I can. And Corey went out there, and Slipknot is a fucking circus anyway. And anyone who's ever seen them knows, you know, it's a very carnival atmosphere. So you got the Ferris wheel in the background.
Perfect.
Which kind of adds to it.
Yes.
And it's a darker photo, but I really like that, because if you look at it closely, you can see the shapes of the people in the darkness, but it's really just Corey highlighted, you know, standing there like this, and he looks alone. Right. But he's not. There's 100,000 people there.
Crazy.
So, you know, the most noticeable elements of the photograph are the Ferris wheel and Corey Taylor.
Yeah.
And they stick out. They're on their own, but all behind it is that massive crowd beneath the smoke and stuff. And it looks kind of isolated, and like he's isolated in a way. But it's a moment of quiet, you know, and he's amongst all the people.
Love that. Let's move on to, and I like this one a lot, of Jerry, of Papa Roach.
Yes.
That's what you've been talking about, that this is not posing. This is not,
right.
You know, oh, I'm a photographer, I'm going to go down to the photography pit and take a shot of the band. This seems really real to me.
Well, Jerry, I don't know if you know this, but Jerry is a very talented photographer himself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you should. He's on Instagram. And he does prints and stuff, shoots film. Very talented guy. He and I talk about photography quite often. He's a good friend. But that's from a European festival called Green Fields in Switzerland. And it is gorgeous. It looks like a Ricola commercial there. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's majestic mountains. And this field in the middle of these mountains is where they have this festival. We played it 2 or 3 times, and it's just awesome. But, you know, I'm buddies with those guys, particularly with Jacoby and Jerry, and I went over to shoot them, and they were having Papa Roach is a really energetic show, you know.
Totally. 110% each song.
Yeah, they go hard, which, you know, I respect a bazillion %. And I was shooting Jerry, and he was just moving and hopping and stuff, and he turned around, and I could see on his face this moment that I've felt before on stage, which is just like, you almost feel like you're going to explode from how awesome it is. It's hard to describe. You're just like, because you're with your band and you're making this music all together, and it feels so good and so powerful, and you're firing on all 4 cylinders, and the audience is loving it, and you're just like, ah! Like it's almost impossible to describe. But he turned around, and I could see he was having that moment, and that face he's making in that photo, he wasn't making that for me. I just happened to catch that.
Awesome.
He was lost in it. It was intense, you know. And
I think I know it. Yeah, and sorry to interrupt. Like, you see shots of, like, I don't know if you're a sports fan, like Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, like in the moment after a big shot, that it's all this intense angst, emotion, just kind of like spills out like vomiting or something.
Yeah.
And it's probably, I have to imagine, just really what's my adjective I want to use? Just euphoric.
Yes, it's very euphoric, and it's particularly if you're playing more aggressive styles of music. It's very primal, you know.
Primal, yeah.
But it is very euphoric, and that's a real moment. That's one of my favorite rock shots I've gotten in recent years. That shot of Jerry, because that's a real honest moment I caught, you know.
Nice.
And
I'd love to segue into probably my favorite photo for different reasons too, about being in the moment, which is this Deaf Heaven shot.
Right.
It's therapeutic is another word we could have used, and that's kind of what I get when I'm looking at this photo. Just this kind of this sense of calm. And like, okay, I'll cite Jose Mangan, our good buddy. Jose, I talked to metal a lot to Jose about, I'm like, dude, why do you like metal so much? And you know what his answer was? Because it makes me feel calm, you know? And you would think that's the opposite of what metal does. Metal, you know, like, but there's a calming aspect to metal. And on this photo, when I saw this photo that you have, and sorry, I'm talking so much, but I want to get to the main point of why I'm bringing it up. Right when I got that photo, I was looking into stuff for this Q&A with you, and I ran into something. I think it was on Loudwire, and it was from one of your fans. Her name is Melissa, and she's a transgender, and she talks about, here, I'll quote her. She said, "A lot of metal really has guided me along this path. Metal fans and bands are some of the most accepting people I've ever met." And I'm kind of choked up by that, because she found a home in metal. Yeah. And it's specifically with your song, Randy, "Walk With Me in Hell," yeah, which she quotes. And I took this photo of Death Heaven and what Melissa goes through and just kind of put it all together. It makes so much sense to me.
Right. It's interesting. Yeah, I saw that that video piece by the young woman, and you know, that song in particular, "Walk With Me in Hell," is a love song that Mark Morton wrote. He wrote the lyrics to that song. That's not my song, you know, but it's a love song. But I've had several people tell me that song has helped them through very, very serious times in their lives. You know, I have a friend who told me about, I met her outside of a gig in Cincinnati, and she had a double mastectomy, and cancer had kept on coming back after that. And she listened to that song while she was in the hospital going through chemo and recovering from operations. And it helped her a lot, you know? So, you know, hear stories like that are just, for me, that's the ultimate compliment a fan can give is when, you know, cause it's like, when people are like, "I love your music, it's fucking brutal, it's awesome." I mean, that stuff's cool and all, right? I get it, because there's place for that as well. But when someone says, "Man, I was having a really bad time in my life, and I didn't know what I was going to do, and I didn't have any answers, but listening to your music helped me get through it," you know, that's like, okay, I did my job. Because that's
so don't go, please finish.
You know, that's what music did for me.
I was just going to ask you that. Is that what, in particular, hard rock or metal, that what got you through?
Punk rock and hardcore. When I was, you know, that's the scene I come from. It's the punk rock and hardcore scene. And you know, I got into more like the Slayer and stuff later, in my later teenage years. But yeah, that's what that music did to me. You know, it made me feel not alone.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Made me feel part of something, and made me feel understood in a way, you know, because I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one who has these complex emotions and these weird anxieties or fears or whatever I was going through, you know. So the music really spoke to me. So that's a huge compliment, and I feel, you know, like I said, it's the biggest one I can get when a fan gives me that, because it makes me feel like I did something good with my life, you know?
Yeah, no, Randy, you have. And we, you know, in a very, very small piece, we, as promoters at DWP, we like to provide entertainment and provide a release.
Yeah.
And yet another reason why we want to have festivals when the time is right, because it will be one big fucking release.
Right. Yeah.
Speaking, go ahead.
Photo though.
Yeah. Sorry, Jesus.
So we're totally, everything I said, just I back it. I believe it 100%. I agree with everything you said. But it's interesting with this photo, because the meaning of it is definitely everything is subjective, and everything is in the eye of the beholder, because I see something entirely different than that when I see this, almost the polar opposite.
Wow.
I was shooting for Revolver magazine. I did an article on younger bands coming up, and there was a show in upstate New York I went to. It was headlined by Gojira, and the opening bands were Deaf Heaven, Code Orange, and this band Oni from the Cayman Islands. And I shot photos of the younger bands and wrote this article for Revolver about, you know, the sort of difficulties sometimes in the modern climate, the music climate for younger bands. But Deaf Heaven, I don't know if you've ever seen them. That's their singer George in the photo, is really freaking weird on stage.
Yes.
Like he's
Yes.
really kind of disturbing. And in this particular photo, he had been drooling and kind of humping the monitor and just kind of looking up and drooling at the audience, just letting drool come down his face. And he was all disgusting and sweaty. If you look at the photo, the kid in the front row, he reached out and grabbed the kid's hand and made him start rubbing it on his hair. And the kid has this look of just utter disgust on his face, like, oh my God. Like his hand is in his hair and it's all sweaty and greasy and spitty and nasty. And he's just like, what the fuck is going on? I don't think he was a Deaf Heaven fan, right? So, so it's an interesting, to me, it kind of represents the fact that rock and roll at times can feel dangerous, you know.
So I guess, you know, art is subjective, like you just said. So that's so funny. I was, you know, to quote Dumb and Dumber, I was way off base.
It's all right, man.
Right, that's art, right?
You put it out there, man. That's the thing about writing songs. It's like I can write a song about, you know, suppose I write a song because my mechanic ripped me off, you know. They would never do that. I love my mechanic, but my mechanic ripped me off and overcharged me, you know, for something stupid because I'm a mechanical dummy and wouldn't do it myself. And I could write this song about, you know, how the mechanic ripped me off. But somebody else can take that and listen to it, and maybe they don't know the exact story behind it, but they can take it and internalize it and apply it to their own life, you know, to their own situation. And that's the beautiful thing about it. You know, that's a beautiful thing about when you create something and let it out into the world. In a sense, it's not just yours anymore. It becomes everyone's.
Love it. Well, let's go, if we can, to two Slayer photos and just go just one and then go right to the next, and I'll let you take the floor.
Well, the first one, hopefully they don't have the order mixed up, but I believe the first one is one of Mr. Paul Bostoff playing drums. And he's playing drums, and there's a massive, massive, massive wall of flame engulfing him.
Yeah, that looks really dangerous.
Dude, I nightly watched him because we toured with Slayer recently for like 4 out of the 5 of their final legs of their tour. You know, it's crazy. But I would watch Paul walk off stage every freaking night, and I'm just like, I don't know how you didn't die back there, you know, because he's on his drum stool and there's just flames shooting out all around him. He's like, it's not that bad, and I'm like, you're fucking crazy, because I almost always was shooting over in Guitar World at Stage Right, and when that stuff goes off, I could feel it. Far away over in Guitar World, where I'm sitting with my tech buddy Warren Lee. I'm like shooting. I'm like, oh my God! Like it got to the point where I knew the pyro cues and stuff.
Sure.
And like started expecting it. But watching him every night, dude, I was just amazed that he could move at all. That he wasn't just like a dehydrated piece of beef jerky by the end of the night. You know?
Yeah, that wins for most intense photo of this display.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Slayer is just fun to shoot, and Fire is fun to shoot. And then the other photo I have, let me find it. I believe it is it's Gary Holt. And that was at Download, the same Download that the Slipknot festival, the Slipknot show was at. And all of us happened to be over there at the same time. And once again, it's kind of like Gary's playing to this massive audience, but like the Corey Taylor photo, he looks kind of isolated out in space by himself.
Right.
And that's something I enjoy doing when I'm shooting photos of shooting photos of people in large crowds, is attempting to make them look almost isolated, as if they're by themselves, and the sunset that night was incredible. So
Yeah.
the sky, this is a little bit after sunset, the sky, because it was already like 10 o'clock at night. It stays light in England forever in the summer. But the sky was really just lit up, and Slayer's lights, when they do hazing and stuff, it was weird. There was so much haze in the air, and the color of the sky coming through, it made all these different colors. And that one was a very blue and purple color. But I got a series of photos of Gary within like 5 seconds, like clack, 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 and the lights are changing, and they all look completely different due to the haze and the lights and stuff,
Do you prefer when you're shooting rock and bands outdoor over indoor?
It depends. It totally depends,
Yeah, with outdoor you may have some so like you bet how the sky could add another element
Yes,
to your shot.
like I've shot the Deftones a few times at sunset. For those guys are magic. They gotta like plan it somehow. But I've seen the Deftones playing 3 times, maybe 4 times. It's crazy in different countries. Right as the sun is going down and the sky is golden and soft, and they're playing like, sex tape or something, and it's just like this. It's like they created this moment,
Yeah,
So,
we've had them at sundown, and there's something very kind of heady, and
yes,
it's true, you get Deftones, you get them
yeah.
in that environment. That's
So
interesting.
it's yeah, it all depends though, indoors or outdoors. It just depends on the band and the size of the crowd and so forth. I don't prefer really either. I can tell you, I think overall I prefer playing outdoors.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I like fresh air. Our guitar player Mark hates it because there's always a breeze and he doesn't like wind blowing on him. He's like,
And it probably fucks with his guitar tone and his sound.
yeah, he doesn't like wind on him when he's playing. It's very strange.
Okay.
So we all have our little things,
Well, let's go to one more if we can. On our then we're off stage with DWP, and Randy, you've been awesome about sharing your photography with us. This one's special to us at DWP because we've taken this band basically from a demo tape, and we put them on the side stage, and then immediately the next year, which we rarely do repeats. This is Fever 333, and you have Jason, and he's kind of in a cabinet.
A road case.
And talk about that. He is an in the moment performer.
Yes.
Which we don't have enough of in rock and roll, in my humble opinion. But he talk about somebody who gives it 110%.
Yeah.
If you could talk about this particular shot, I'd love to hear about it.
Him and Stevis and Eric, all 3 of the dudes in that band are out of their fucking minds. So this is the first time I had ever seen this band. And I've become friends with Jason since then, and the other dudes, and we keep up. But we were playing later on that same stage, and I saw their name in the lineup, and I was like, yeah, I heard of them. I don't really know what they're about, but I've heard a little buzz or something. So as often happens at festivals, I just cruise by and be like, what's going on over here? And just go see it. And I started watching Fever, and I was like, holy fuck. So I went and ran back to our dressing room and told my dudes, I was like, you guys need to come the fuck out here right now and come see this shit. Because it was ignorant, man. It was just crazy. I was like, this dude is losing his fucking, all of them losing their mind. Their drummer is like, dude, it was crazy. I mean,
they have a hard time staying on stage.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. And the interesting thing is that they brought that energy, that crazy energy that I saw a lot of in the 80s at the hardcore and punk rock shows, and that still translates in smaller clubs. But they brought that crazy energy, 3 dudes, to such a big stage like Sonic Temple, and totally sold it, man.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody was enraptured, and it was just nuts, dude. It was like a photographer's wet dream because all three of them are going crazy at all points and times, you know?
I mean, I normally we would love that band to be like at 7 o'clock on stage too, but we wanted a main stage, and you can see by that photo, it's about 2 o'clock, and that
Yeah.
is a tough slot.
Yeah.
You're either going to be forgotten in 35 minutes, or you like we're talking about it now.
Yeah. Nobody forgot about that set that day. And, you know, I mean, dude, he was throwing trash cans in the air and climbing. He has like the world's longest mic cord. It's like 200 feet long or something. He was like up in the stands climbing shit, and then just took a road case from somewhere and hopped in it, and then went out to the audience and started, you know, road case surfing or whatever. And I was like, this is fucking nuts. And we sat and watched them, you know, and then they walked off stage, and I was like, dudes, fucking respect. You guys brought it. And they were like, thank you so much. We're big fans. I was like, what? You know?
They're like that. Yeah, no, again, we're huge supporters. Jason's going through a lot, you know, as is the whole band, and he's front and center. He's in the front lines, and so we are too. There's change in the air, and I think it's going to be somebody like Fever 333 to help guide us as we evolve.
Yeah, he's a smart dude, man. He and I have had, you know, several exchanges during this particularly. I don't know how to put it. This time of unrest, as it were.
Yeah,
You know.
good one.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we keep up, and you know, I checked in with him and Stevis and so forth. So they're really good dudes, and I wish them all the best. You know, they really bring it. You know, which I respect.
Well, this is a great way to end it. Randy, thanks so much for being a part of this. You're off stage with DWP. Would rather see you on stage with us, but we'll take it. Is there anything you want to say to all the Lamb of God fans, you know, out there while we're waiting to get back at it?
Yeah, thanks for picking up our new record. And, you know, we're going to be back. We promise.